Chapter 3 Intermediate Trouble in the Great Desert. A brown world. Garowan Great Desert was a place those words expressed perfectly. The sand was brown, formed by millions of minuscule grains. The wind that was blowing constantly threw up the sand and dyed the air brown. And in a 360-degree radius, there was only one color as far as I could reach. Moreover, there was numerous sand dunes, big and small, whose surface were always stirred by the winds. Moment by moment, the surface patterns of the dunes was constantly changing as if expressing "I'm alive." The blazing sun and its unreversed heat made the temperature of the sand on the ground shoot up quickly. It was easily exceeded 40 degrees Celsius coupled with flittering sand. It was the worst environment to travel in. However, it was only for ordinary travelers. Currently, inside such a severe environment, a black box shaped vehicle, a magic driven four-wheeler, in fact, was advancing casually while raising a sandstorm. Though there were neither road nor pathway, it was solved by a compass installed inside the vehicle. The outside is amazing. I am really glad that it's not a normal carriage. This one agrees. This one does not know how it became such an environment, but indeed, it isn't a place this one wants to be actively moving in. Sitting on the rear seats while watching the sand bathing the window and observing the brown colored world, she and Tio murmured so wholeheartedly. No matter how much of an Tio was, this environment was only depressing her. It's completely different from when Mew came here before. Here's very cool, and Mew's eyes aren't hurting. Papa is amazing. That's right. Hajime Papa is amazing. Right, Mew-chan? Don't you drink cold water? Want to? Kyori One-chan, thank you. Sitting on the lap of Kyori, who was seated on the window side of the front seat, Mew was excited because it was different from the time that she was here when she was kidnapped before. Mew was looking at Hajime, who created such a comfortable space with sparkling eyes. That was natural. It had been terribly severe for Mew, who was a member of a sedular tribe, to come across desert. For a young child around 4 years old like her, it would be a strange for her to have died due to the weakened state. Having endured such an environment made Mew's surprise further increase at a gap between that time and now. After all, this four-wheeler was equipped with air conditioning. Following that, the one who agreed with Mew took out the cold water which normally didn't exist in a desert even if one hoped for with all his might, was one who made an impactful confession to Hajime and declaration of war to Yue in Holad. Before he knew it, she had become one of the companions. She was scary. Incidentally, the water was taken out of the refrigerator installed in the car. You know, Shirasa Kyori. Please stop, Hajime Papa. It somehow made me feel terribly itchy over here. But isn't Mew sad as if it was Nom? Well, I don't mind Mew. However, for a classmate to call me Papa is really due to her personality, which liked to look after others. Kyori somehow became the one who took care of Mew, and she mostly called Hajime as Hajime Papa when she was outside. And as for a classmate and a girl at that, to call him Papa, Hajime felt a different sense of resistance from when Mew called him that, and he wore a truly subtle expression. Incidentally, for Hajime to call her as Kyori was the result of her petition. Her reason was Hajime kun calls everyone by their own given names, so it's unfair for me to be called by my family name, something like that. Is that so? Then I won't. But someday I will also have a child. At that time, Kyori said so with her cheeks dried crimson while sneaking a peek at Hajime. Thus a strange atmosphere wrapped around everyone inside vehicle, except for Mew. Then Yue answered Kyori in place of Hajime, who pretended not to hear anything. Unfortunately, I have made that appointment already. Hajime promised it to me. Hajime-kun, what does she mean? I don't think it is something that is strange. After all, it is something still in far future. Hmm. Hajime already promised to introduce me to his parents. He thoroughly made a bright family plan. Even the dates in Hajime hometown. UA vigorous attacks couldn't be stopped. Those words one by one became stacks driven into Kyory's chest. However, Kyory wasn't a woman that would be easily done. She believed in Hajime's survival even in such a depressing situation, and she had the courage to challenge Yue, who obviously owned a special bond with Hajime. In the moment Yue's words were stopped, she began her counterattack. I know a lot of things about Hajime Kun that Yue doesn't know. For example, Hajime's dream for the future, his hobbies, even his favorite genre. Does Yue know the anime and manga that Hajime likes? That's. But those aren't related to current us. There's no such things here. Hajime can just teach me once we arrive in Japan. How naive. Just look at the current Hajime Kun. Doesn't he look just like an anime character? Eh? It should have been a fight between Kyori and Yue, but somehow Hajime received the damage. The white haired with eye page, moreover his magic eyes, those were certainly the things Hajime Kun's favorite characters have. Even his weapons, that crossblade is modeled from funnel. Ha, but the one Hajime Kun likes is 00, so it's G and bet. Whatever it is, current Hajime Kun is still quite full of atagaw. Ga, Kyori. Hmm. For Hajime weapons to be derived from that. Yue, can you say it is your victory if you don't know the things the one you love like? Kyori. That's some courage. Then let me teach you myself about the things that Hajime likes on the bad. On bad? As I thought. It is good that you know the difference between us. During their travel, Yue and Kyoryo had already made many sparks against each other that the other party members already came to ignore them. In the beginning, Shia watched them anxiously, but in the end, it didn't become a serious problem, so she stopped getting herself involved with them. In a way, it was Hajime who received most of the damage. Hajime was the source of the two quarrels, so the content of their fights made him want to wreath. Even now, he received a mental damage because the things he worried about the most were being pointed at. Now, Yue boldly told them about the night activities, which made Kyori close her ears, not wanting to hear. Hajime himself didn't want Mew to be exposed to that, so he tried to stop Yue. However, faster than Hajime, Mew unexpectedly came to stop the two quarrel. Yue Onichan and Kyori Onichan always quarreling. Mew hates it if big sisters don't get along. Saying so, Mew moved from Kyori's lap towards the Shia's lap in the back seat. Moreover, Yue and Kyori became flustered. It was because the 4-year-old girl said she would hate them. Geez, you two are unbecoming in front of a Mew-chan. Rather than that was a bad for her education. I also understand how much you two think about Hajime-san, but please be more prudent. What a failure to be scolded by Shia. I am sorry, Mucha. Shia. To be admonished by Shia made the two drop their shoulders. For Yue, Shia was akin to a friend sister, and although Shia also held affection towards Hajime, she also thought similarly towards Yue, which made Yue didn't think of her as a love rival. As for Tio, she was just a pervert. That's why Kyori, who made the full frontal declaration of war towards Yue, was the first love rival she ever had. Yue was convinced that there was an absolute bond between her and Hajime. She held an unwavering confidence that she was Hajime's special person. That's why she was confident that she would be able to easily defeat the challenger Kyori when the confession and declaration of war happened. However, although her confidence didn't change, Kyori some stem made the flower bloom between her and Hajime when they were reminiscing about Japan, which was unknown to you and the others. Towards Kyori, who knew the past Hajime that she didn't know of US sense of rivalry blurred before long. As a result, just like children boasting about their collections, their quarrel turned into from a serious one to such a situation, and today Mew and Shia finally got angry at them. Normally, Hajime was the one who should be stopping Yue, but he was the one who received most of the damage from the two quarrel, and now he could not only look into the far distance as if it didn't have anything to do with him to heal his wounded heart. What is that? Master, there seems to be a commotion in the direction of at 3 o'clock. Yue and Query were depressed, feeling that they were getting along to mend Mew's mood, and Shia was also calming Mew in a very smile. Hajime muttered, I am not a Chuni, with hollow eyes. While those happened, unexpectedly Tio, who watched them in interest, called out to Hajime. She seemed to have discovered something outside the window. Hajime looked towards the place Tio mentioned, a big dune, uh, a big dune at his right. There are numerous worms like demonic beasts and worms, to be precise, had gathered. Their numerous heads could be seen at the top of the dune. Those sandworms were 20 meters on average, large scale demonic beasts, while largest ones were around 100 meters in length. They lived in this Garian great desert and would usually submerge themselves on the ground and attack on the prey in their vicinity by opening their big fangs filled mouth from the willow. They specialized in surprise attacks due to being hard to detect and were feared by the people who crossed the large desert as a gods of death. Damn, 100-meter length. That's truly amazing. Fortunately, the sandworms themselves weren't very perceptive, so as long as one wasn't so unfortunate as to come near them by accident, they would never notice nor aim at anyone who was far away. As such, it could be said that there was someone who was not that fortunate at that tune. But why are they not? Why are they just squirming around? That's right. Tio would have not made a doubtful face and asked Hajime if there was just a sandworm appearing. With Hajime's perceptive skill, he would have noticed any of the sandworm's surprise attacks and they would be able to get out of sandworm's range with four-wheeler speed. What was abnormal was that if the sandworms were attacking someone rather than attacking, the sandworms were swimming around in the surrounding. It's as if they are confused as to eat or not, right? Well, from what I see, isn't that so? This one has no knowledge of this place, but those are eaters. They shouldn't be hesitating to eat anything. Although Tio was a message pervert, she had lived far longer than Yue, and unlike the imprisoned Yue, her knowledge was pretty vast. That was why she owned a reliable information about demonic beast. For her to be looking doubtful must mean that something extraordinary is happening. However, they didn't have any reason to be involved with it. Hajime decided to get as far away as possible without confirming or getting involved in it. And at that time, everyone brace yourselves. Hajime shouted so and immediately accelerated the four-wheeler. Moro, from behind the four-wheeler, starting a small part of its body surfacing a gigantic figure with the same color as the desert jumped out with its mouth open. It was a sandworm. Apparently, Hajime's party were also unfortunate ones. Hajime further steered to the left and right, advancing through the sand at the highest speed under the four-wheelers that drew an letter as a second and third sandworm jumped out. Kya, who, wah! In order of in order of screams, there was Kyori, Mew, and Shia. Met with a strong centrifugal force, Kyori turned behind, worrying about Mew in the back seat, but her balance crumbled and she fell into the Hajime's lap with her lips on Mew's lap, with her hips on Mew's Yue's lap. Sorry, that was my mistake. Blinking her eyes, Kyori's cheeks were flushed and she was just clinging tightly to Hajime's waist. Her position was actually pretty bad. It made Hajime's cheek cramp. Incidentally, other half of Kyori's body was crushing on Yue. Why is Shira? Kyori, what are you doing in such a situation? It's a dangerous situation, so I'm just clinging to Hajime-kun. Damn you, Kyori. To pin me under, is it a surprise attack? While receiving an ambush from the sandworms, Kyori used this chance to hug Hajime. Yue was slapping Kyori's butt even now, but the blushing Kyori was still clinging to Hajime's waist, not moving at all. While they were like that, the three appearing sandworms with their upper bodies out of the ground were glaring at the four-wheeler that was evaded all their attacks ambushes. Evaded all their ambushes. This time, those gigantic figures came forward to attack from overhead. If it's a normal queries, everything would have ended in with that attack. However, it was an artifact created with a portion of Hajime's otaku soul. It wasn't even daunted at being made as prey. Besides, this is the first time I'm using this. Saying so, Hajime turned around the four-wheelers with a drift, advancing backwards. He poured his magic and activated the installed functions. Clang, kak, tung. At the same time, the mechanical sound effects rang out. A part of four-wheeler's bonnet slid open and the arms with set of four rockets came out. The arm moved as if looking for its prey, and when it turned towards the incoming sandworms, whoosh, such a SFX rang out accomplished by a deadly warhead scratching their sparks. Shining in an orange color, the rocket entered right into the sandworm's open mouth, and after a moment, they created a great explosion as they destroyed the sandworms from inside. The sandworm's crimson blood and flesh poured down like a shower, and some struck on the windshield of the currently back running four wheeler. Huey, Shiam let me see it. Shia, don't let me see it. I did it already. Miu-chan, was it painful? But please hold on for a while. Hajime asked Shia to do so at the time the rocket was fired into the incoming sandworms because the stimulation might be too strong for Miu. Like that, in synchronization with Hajime, Shia was already embracing Miu closely to her chest, so she would not see it. However, maybe because she could not breathe from her face being buried in Shia's breast, Miu tried to slip out and inadvertently touched a part of Shia's body. Inadvertently, Shia moaned. Hajime decided that he did not hear anything. Currently, Hajime, although Kyori was clinging onto Hajime's waist, Yue was finally able to fix her seat belt. Indeed, it was not a situation where he could be defeated by his own impulse, even though his ears were dyed in red and his face cramped. Excuse me, Hajime-kun. I'm sorry that I impulsively. There's no perverted meaning to it. That is, for a bit, I just wanted to hug. Then, if things go well, are you going to satisfy Hajime like that? That is so. Wait, no. You don't put such a strange things into my mouth. I'm not as lewd as you are. You said I'm lewd? Certainly. I can't refute that when I'm alone with Hajime. Girls, please shut it up already. Also, Yue, please don't talk about the night activities because it's embarrassing. With the three sandworms crushed by the rockets installed in the four-wheeler, Hajime sharpened his gaze because the sandworms on the dunes before could be seen moving due to the preceding explosive sounds and impacts. However, on his side, Kyori and Yue were conversing just as usual, which reduced his tension. Inadvertently, he admonished them due to him being embarrassed. To begin with, in his mind, the night Yue was certainly a lewd one, and when he was alone with her, he thought of her as pretty erotic. Kyoryu, who seemed to have seen through him, was teary-eyed. Yue, with a bewitching smile, was looking at Hajime while licking her lips. Kyori, who saw that, raised a cute groan. Unconsciously, her fighting spirit blazed further. From the back seat, Shia said, I understand you're feeling, Kyori-san. We are comrades here, while patting Kyori's shoulder with a sympathetic eyes. Hajime ignored them and moved four-wheelers above another dune. He could see the group of sandworms on the lower side of the ground with their lower parts still underground. They didn't hide anything as they slightly raised the sand. They might have guessed that they had been noticed by Hajime's party, so they chose speed over another surprise attack. Hajime put the rocket launcher away and activated another piece of weaponry in its sheath. The center of the bonnet slid apart and the rectangular machine appeared from inside. Following that, the rectangular box extended its barrel like with a cushion sound effect and it became a rifle which was similar to Sheklan. Next, the bright red sparks gushed out from the four-wheeler Sheklan with its arm adjusting the angle. Came a roaring firing sound as a flashing line tore through the brown world. The bullet, which was fired at a high velocity, advanced as it raised the sand on the ground upon the impact and grandly raised a sandstorm. On the sand column that was raised just like an eruption was of course a lot of sand-colored meat and red blood. The Shaglan installed on the four-wheeler continued to fire bright red flashes one after the another. The sandworms that were hunting their prey exploded on the ground and became small beds of nourishment to the barren ground. Hajime-kun, look at that. A white person? When four-wheeler Shaglan was trailing with white smokes was stored back, Kyori let out a suppressed voice and pointed her finger. In the place Kyori pointed at, just as Yue muttered, was a collapsed person who was wrapped in white clothing. It was probably one that previous sandworms were looking at. However, from their distance, it was unknown as to why it wasn't eaten. Please, Hajime-kun, let's go there. I'm a healer after all. Kyori looked at Hajime, pitying. Even Hajime was interested as to why that person was not attacked by the demonic beast of the desert in such a situation, so he accepted Kyori's request. It was possible that the person carried a method or item capable of keeping demonic beast away, and in actuality there was a mineral called Fedrin crystal. Guys, tell me if I pronounce it wrong. I guess it's Fedrin crystal that carried such an effect in the sea of trees. The crystal only made it difficult for the demonic beast to approach, but there's a possibility that even a stronger item exists. As such, the four-wheeler came near the collapsed person. The person wore clothing that was similar to Galebia, Egyptian clothing, and it wore a hood that was large enough to hide its face. Its face couldn't be seen. Falling prone, the hood hid it. Getting off the four-wheelers, Kyori ran with short steps towards the fallen person. This is when the hood was taken off, a man's face could be seen, a young man that was still middle of his 20s. However, what surprised Kyori was not that the young man stayed. With a pained expression, he was drenched in sweat, his breathing was rough, and his pulse was fast. He generated an intense heat from all over his body that could be felt even through his clothing. Moreover, his blood vessels could be seen as if they were being pressed from inside of his body, and he was bleeding from his eyes and nose. It was obviously an abnormal situation. It was neither a sunstroke nor cold. Hajime became cautious towards the virus carrier like young man, but he decided to keep quiet and watch as the healing specialist was examining him. Kyori activated Infiltrate and Examine. Using the magic power to infiltrate the other's body, she could examine one's state and the results could be seen on her status plate. With one hand placed on young man's chest, other hand was holding her status plate, where the result of the examination was displayed. The result was rampaging magic power. Does it mean the magic power inside his body is out of control because of poison? Kyori, do you understand anything now? Yeah, but this is saying so. Kyori shown what was displayed on her status plate. Condition: excessive release of magic power, unable to release it outside. Symptom: fever, hazy consciousness, pain in whole body, rupturing of blood vessels, and hemorrhage. Cause: abnormality in body fluid. It is just my guess, but he must have drunk something which resulted in his magic power going out of control. Moreover, because he can't release it outside, his magic power was pressuring from inside of his body and his body couldn't endure it. If this keeps up, his internal organs and the blood vessels will explode. It is only possible that he was weakened to that due to the large amount of hemorrhaging. I am requesting a blessing onto this location, 10,000 heavens. Concluding so, Kyori chanted her healing magic, 10,000 heavens, that was what she activated. It was one of the middle rank healing magic with the effect of curing abnormal conditions. It was the magic used to undo the shokugyou's petrification. However, there's almost no change. Why? For it to be incapable of curing it? Does it mean too much time had passed? Apparently, 10,000 heavens could not cure the man. It could only delay the progression. Next, maybe because of the pressure from inside his body, the young man groaned in pain. His bleeding didn't stop. At the moment, because she didn't have any clear treatment method, Kyori ground her teeth and decided to use her emergency measure. Here I declared the light of grace. Here is my realm, my sanctuary, which crashes all the events just as I intend to. Holy ground. High rank light attributed healing magic. Holy ground. It was a magic that transfers pupils' magic power to other within the area. Basically, by transferring one magic power to one's companion, that person would be temporarily escaped from magic power exhaustion. It was the magic that aimed to supplement another if he or she didn't have sufficient amount of magic power to shoot a strong magic. Moreover, it wasn't limited to the user's magic power, so it could forcibly transfer someone else's magic power to another one's within the area. It held the same principle as magic rain. However, it needed a lot more time to extract the magic power from another person. It was impossible to extract a lot of it at once. It needed a lot of time to extract the magic power from another person. It was incapable to extract a lot of it at once. Okay, this was the reason it is only a high ranked magic. To begin with, it only became practical because Curie was capable of activating magic, which was originally needed 10 notes with only 3 notes of chanting. It shows how capable Curie is. The reason she used the magic on the suffering young man was because to release the rampaging magic power that was building pressure inside his body towards the outside. It was displayed on the status plate that the young man was in a state where he cannot release the magic power to the outside of the body. So she decided, if I try this, it might I might solve it forcefully draining it using high rank magic. The pure light expanded from the center of the young man's body, and firefly like fleeting light sprang about. It was a mysterious sight. With her eyes shut, the appearance of Curie, who placed her hand above the young man's chest as she concentrated and was bribed by the fleeting light, was divine. Curie, who easily activated high rank magic, met the ones well versed in magic. UA and Tio inadvertently leak voice of admiration. While being held by Shia, Mew watched Curie in an entranced expression and muttered, "Beautiful," without noticing that her new comrades in the surroundings were raising voices of admiration. Kyori put the magic power extracted from the young man into the bracelet made of quartz crystal that she received from Hajime. Apparently, the force drained from the high rank magic was effective. Incidentally, the reason it was not a ring was because Hajime didn't want to repeat the past misunderstanding. Gradually, the young man's breathing became steady, the redness of his body also disappeared, as it seems the bleeding was also stopped. After deactivating the holy ground, Kyori activated beginner ranked healing magic, blessing, which healed the young man's blood vessels. For the time being, I don't think it will have an immediate effect as I don't see any real solution for it. There's also the possibility of a slow death from the magic power extraction, so I only extracted it until the level where the pressure inside his body is decreased. If this keeps up, I think the possibility of a slow death from either the pressure from inside his body or fatigue is high. I also have no memory of such a symptoms from the things I studied. Do you and Tio know anything about it? With the young man out of crisis, Curie was somewhat relieved but anxious as she could not heal him completely. Thus, she asked Yu and Tio, whose knowledge was deep. The two gauges wandered around as they searched about their inside of their memory, but, but there was none. In the end, it became a situation where they could not even say if it was a disease or an unknown cause. Query just to be safe, try to examine us too. After all, there's also the possibility that it is an unknown disease that is spread by aerial infection too. Well, there's no need to worry about it if it's just a rampaging of magic power. You are right. Nodding to Hajime's word, Kyori examined everyone's and didn't find any abnormalities. Therefore, because it seemed not to infect anyone from desperation, Hajime party patted their chest in relief. When they did that, the young man raised a groan and his eyelids trembled. Thus he woke up. Slowly opening his eyes and then looking at the surrounding, the young man saw the nearby Kyori who was watching him in a worry and he said, "Goddess? I see, so this is that world." Following that, the young man began to heat up from different regions and tried to reach out towards Kyori, only to have his stomach trampled by Hajime, who didn't conceal his irritation from the already annoying heat and sand. "Hm, Hajime-san?" Leering at the groaning young man, whose body bent into, and Kyori, who raised a surprised voice, Hajime began to questioning him. Hajime knew that the Garavia-like clothing and overcoat worn by the young man was a specialty from the dukedom of Ankara that was located in the biggest oasis of Garian Great Desert. He stated it was a way of escaping reality at the time he was called incompetent. If the young man says that a kind of disease was spreading in Ankara, then they would change their next destination due to the current ones being a danger zone. Thus he asked the young man. Regaining his sense from being trampled by Hajime, the young man didn't even look at Hajime's party surrounding him and stared at the black object, blinking in confusion. After hearing through the After hearing the rough circumstances from Kyori and understanding that Hajime's party were the life saviors, benefactors, he bowed his head and said his thanks and began his story. Hearing the young man's story, is it those gods is it those gods playing tricks on us? Hajime was looking at the sky doubtfully because trouble was always followed them wherever they went. So guys, that concludes this chapter. Hope you liked it and we will start with chapter 4 in the next video. Of course, I'm doing some mistakes and while reading it, so I hope you guys will neglect it and keep supporting me. Okay guys, see ya. See you in the next video.